Hi dears, welcome back to Tech IT by SHK.
So before we dive into Windows 11, I thought it might be quite nice to start out by going through some of the new features in Windows 11. So these are things that are going to be different if you are currently a Windows 10 user. And I will say that a lot of the newer features in Windows 11 are very much related to the overall look and feel of the operating system you'll see as we start to go through them. In general, it has an overall smoother, modern, more slick look about it. And so far, I have to say I'm really enjoying it. So let's take a quick whiz around now. The first thing that's most obvious is if we pull up the taskbar, notice that we have a centered taskbar. It does look a little bit different to Windows 10. We now have our Start button and all of our application shortcuts in the middle of that taskbar. Now, if we click on the Start button again, the Start screen looks very different to what we're used to. It's cleaner, and once again it's in the center of the screen. Now we still have in here many of the things that we're used to. We have our pinned applications. We have some recommended documents, things that we've accessed recently, and we also have access to our power options. So sleep, shut down and restart from here, as well as our account options. So this is where you can come to sign out of your account, change your account settings or lock your screen. Now, if we take a quick look at the pinned applications, note that this isn't the full list of applications. If we want to see those, we just need to click the All Apps button up here and then we have all of our applications on our computer are organized alphabetically. And of course, if we're looking for something specific, we can simply type it into the search bar up here to find it. Now, as we're already in here, this might be a good opportunity for us to jump into settings because there are a few differences in here as well. So I'm going to type settings. There it is underneath best match. Let's click to open. So again, this interface does look different to Windows 10. We have all of our categories on the left-hand side, and then we have a selection of subcategories. So for example, if I click on personalization, I can then choose if I want to personalize the background, the colors, the themes, so on and so forth. And when we jump into one of those, in this case, background, we then have all of the options that we can set. So personally, I much prefer this layout. I really feel like Microsoft is making it a lot easier for you to interact with the settings that you use most frequently. Remember, if you want to go back, we have a back arrow in the top left-hand corner that is going to take us back a level and back a level again. On this area, this is where I can find my quick settings. So this is just going to enable me to quickly access settings I use most frequently. So things like my Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, nightlight focus assist, and I can also adjust the brightness and the volume from here. So aside from that, what else is new? Well, let's go back to our taskbar because you'll notice that you have this little icon just here, and this is the new inbuilt chat. And this is effectively a shortcut to start video calls and chat conversations with family and friends. Powered by Microsoft Teams. So they've really integrated Teams into the overall build of Windows 11 and then adjust next to that chat icon on the taskbar. We have widgets, and widgets is going to allow us to have quick access to important information that's of interest to us. And of course, as you can imagine, this entire widgets panel is customizable. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, the biggest changes in Windows 11 have occurred to the look and feel of the interface, and those are most obvious when you start opening your applications. For example, if we jump into a file explorer, this does look very different to Windows 10, and I will say that most of the changes that you're seeing here are mainly cosmetic, but there are some functionality changes as well. Firstly, the icons for the different folders have been modernized, and I really like this because previously all of the folder icons were the same color. And what Microsoft have done here is they've changed the color, made them a little bit more obvious that they're distinct from one another. Also notice again, a very small cosmetic change, which I quite like the corners of all your windows. And I'll round it now for something like this. File Explorer, take a look at our menu running across the top. We now have a simplified toolbar as opposed to a ribbon. And this is where you're going to find things like cut, copy, paste, and also rename. So this is now a little bit different. If I right-click on a file within a folder, you can see that I have far fewer options in that right-click menu. Basically, Microsoft has left this right-click menu to only include commonly used options. So if you're used to right-clicking and selecting something like rename from the right-click menu, you'll notice that it's now no longer there because we now have it on the simplified toolbar at the top. And I will say I am very much a right-clicker. This has taken me a few days to get used to. Now, when you're in that right-click menu, if you really would like to see the old-style Windows 10 menu, if you click on Show More Options, that's going to take you back to that menu. And things like cut, copy, rename, paste are all in this menu. So now let's open some other applications. So I've opened up a few different apps, and what you'll notice is that some of them have a dark theme. And some of them have a light theme. So this is another difference between Windows 10 and in Windows 11. We now have application-specific light and dark modes. Now, another cool thing, if you hover over the Maximize Window button on any of these windows, notice we now get a choice of different layouts. And this is super useful and a feature that I use all the time. So if I want to split my screen into 4, I can do that. So let's click. And now I can choose which applications I want in which windows. Maybe I just want 2 applications, so I can select and say I want my to-do list. And also my snipping tool. So a few more options there when it comes to snapping. Now the final thing I want to point out here, which isn't brand new for Windows 11, but it's worth mentioning because a lot of people always forget that it's there. If we go down to the taskbar, we also have a desktop button just here. So if you have lots of applications open on your desktop and you want to split them across effectively, 2 different desktops, you can add another desktop here, which gives you a little bit more room. A little bit more real estate when you're working in applications. So that is it. A quick whiz around some of the new features in Windows 11. We are, of course, going to go into everything and a lot more detail throughout this course. But those are the main changes that are going to come across. So let's start by getting ourselves familiar with the Windows 11 interface. Now, if I pull my mouse down to the bottom of the screen, you'll see that taskbar pops up, and in the middle there I have a number of different buttons, and these are effectively shortcut links to other parts of the system. Some of these buttons will launch applications. Some of them will take me into different features and settings. And if you're a Windows 10 user, you're probably used to all of these buttons being a bit further to the left. In the Windows 11 layout, they are towards the middle of the taskbar. Now, the first button that we have on this taskbar is the Start button, and we can access it by clicking on the icon. Or if you're into your keyboard shortcuts, you can press the Windows key on your keyboard and it's going to pop open that menu. So again, this is where we can come if you want to launch applications and access our system controls. If I want this window to go away, I can either click somewhere on the desktop background or I can just press the Windows key again, and that will minimize it back down. Now, one thing you'll notice about my taskbar is that it doesn't appear until I pull my mouse all the way down to the bottom of the screen. And I've set my taskbar up like this simply because I record a lot of videos and all of the time, we don't really need that taskbar to be in the frame. Now we'll say that most people don't have this taskbar set to hide itself when you're not hovering over it. So let me just show you how you change this setting. All we need to do here is right-click on the taskbar and go to Taskbar Settings. And towards the bottom, we have a Taskbar Behavior section, and what you'll notice is that I have mine set to automatically hide the taskbar. So what I could do here is select this and notice that my taskbar has already come back. And now it's visible all the time. And really, this is kind of personal preference, but just be aware that you can change that. If we go over to the right-hand side, this is where we have our system tray. So all of these little icons in the bottom right-hand corner, if I click on the time and date, that's going to pop open a mini view of my calendar, which is super useful if you just need a quick way of seeing dates. And it's also going to show me my notification center, and we're going to go into this a lot more later on in this course. Just be aware that this is where you can access these things. And of course, as we've already seen, if we click on the next three icons just here, that's going to open up our quick settings. So remember, this is just a fast way to adjust important system settings. What else do we have on this taskbar that we haven't yet looked at? Well, the second icon in is such so if you're looking for something on your PC, and that might be an application, a document, a specific setting. This is a universal search that's going to search through everything. So if I was looking for a particular setting, so maybe I wanted to know how to adjust the brightness on my PC, I could type that in and you can see I now get change brightness level. If I click on it, it's going to jump me across to settings where I can come in and change that brightness. So nice and straightforward if I'm looking for an application. Notice that it's also brought up any documents that I have and also folders that have the word Excel in the title. So you've really kind of get to see everything that's related to the keyword that you've used. So search is extremely useful. I use this all the time, particularly when I'm looking for a specific setting. The next button along is where we can manage multiple desktops. So currently I'm working in desktop 1. But if I wanted to, I could create another new desktop and have a whole set of different documents on this desktop. It's almost like having a virtual double monitor set up, and I could add more than two I could carry on. So this really depends on how many different applications you've got open. And of course, we can rename all of these desktops to make them a little bit more meaningful. Again, we are going to talk about this a lot more later on in the course. And for the time being, I'm just going to get rid of desktop to the next I can. Along as the widgets icon, so I can click this to open it, or I can press the shortcut key Windows key W and that's going to pop open my widgets pane. And in this widgets pane, you can see a news feed and any widgets that you've set up. This whole area is completely customizable, so there's information that's of importance to you at a quick glance. And again, we'll look at this a lot more later on, because there's so much you can do in here. For the time being, let's launch some applications. So the first application I'm going to launch is Microsoft Edge. And if you've never used Edge before, this is Microsoft's latest browser. So the way I like to think of it is it's the new and much improved version of Internet Explorer. Now, notice that I have the dark theme applied to this particular browser, and this leads me on quite nicely to something that's really important to note. Whichever application you have opened, there are in general different ways of accessing that application's settings and controls. So sometimes you might see three dots somewhere in the window, normally towards the corner. For example, in Edge, I can see that I have three dots up here. If I click it, it's going to open up my settings for this Edge browser. So, for example, if I wanted to change this back to the light theme, I can go all the way down to Settings. I'm going to choose Appearance, and there we go. Currently, I have dark set. I'm going to change that to light, and that is it. Now, if I click on the Home button, it's going to take me back to that home page. So get into the habit of looking out for things like 3 dots to access settings for particular applications. Now what I'm also going to do here is we're going to open up File Explorer, because something else you might see in some applications is aside from the 3 dots, which we also have in this window. You might also see little drop-down arrows like this next to some of the commands, and if you click this, it always means it's going to give you a drop-down menu of additional options. And then if you take a look through these menu options, one of them, the one at the bottom, also has an arrow pointing to the right-hand side. And if you see something like that, that means that it's got an offshoot menu where you're going to find even more options to choose from. So try and get into the habit of noticing where you have these little hidden menus underneath 3 dots or underneath arrows, because this is fairly consistent across all of the windows that you're going to use in Windows 11. Now, with these windows, we can pick them up simply by clicking at the top and dragging and moving them around. We can resize these windows as well. So if we hover over the right-hand side, I can then drag this in, drag it out. I can do the same with the bottom, and for some windows, you also have a diagonal as well. So if I hover over and you got to get this just right, I can then drag it in by the corner. So all windows are completely resizable. Now, if we take a look at these controls that we have up in the top right-hand corner, again, these are fairly consistent across all windows that you'll have open. Now the one that looks like a line, this is the minimize window option. And if I click this, it's just going to minimize File Explorer down into the taskbar. It hasn't closed it down. It's still there. If I want to go back to it, I can hover over the File Explorer icon and there is my window, so I can just click to bring it back. The square icon is effectively the opposite of that now. Notice that as I hover over, I'm getting those new grid layouts. But if I just simply want to maximize this window so it fills the entire screen, I can just click the square and it's going to do that. Notice as soon as I do that, that icon changes, and if I click it again, it's going to minimize it back down to its original size. And of course, if we do want to snap different applications into different parts of the screen, we can choose one of these new layouts. And then finally, the cross in the corner that is going to close the entire window. Now it's worth noting that with some applications, if you have multiple windows open and you click that cross in the corner, sometimes it will close down every single document or file that you have open within the application. So it's always good to check if you're just closing the file or if you're closing the entire application. So that said, those are the little features that you'll see consistently when you're using Windows 11.
Please like and subscribe and click the bell icon, enable all alerts to get new video updates. Share this video and channel with your friends and family. Bye from SHK.